Sean Ellis here with Mickey Helliott for the second, more professional instalment of the Hellraiser boxing vlog. How's it going, Mickey?
Good, thank you.
We're gonna chat about a few things. I'd like to kick off by talking about AJ and Dillian Whyte this weekend.
Yeah, I think well, it's obviously the big fight this weekend. Other than the Tyson Fury fiasco, that's been the big news this week, is that fight. Actually, really intriguing fight. I mean, it's the first live opponent we've seen Joshua in with. I've seen the amateur fight between them, watched it quite a number of times. I don't really think we can take anything from that fight in terms of like what this fight's going to be like. The only thing, actually, there's one thing that you can take, which is that AJ, Anthony Joshua, gets, you can see he gets wobbled, he gets dropped, he gets taken well out of his comfort zone, and the only thing I think we can take from that is that you can see in that fight, it's in his DNA to fight. Doesn't try and hold, doesn't try and run away, or fiddle his way out of it. He stands and has a fight. Is
this the amateur fight you were talking about?
Yeah, the amateur fight they had that Dillian Whyte won. I mean, other than that, I mean, Joshua was completely unrecognisable from like what he is now in that fight. You know, his defence is all over the place, his balance is pretty awful, which are things that now he doesn't sort of have a problem with. So I think I wouldn't read anything into really the result. What I would say is, look, you can see from that Joshua's probably losing the fight up until the last sort of 30 seconds of the last round, when actually he starts to take control of it a bit. And that's, I think, if anything you can take into the pro fight they're going to have, they're going to be taken out of their comfort zones, both of them probably. And I think that with Joshua, he may be more sort of seasoned in the amateurs at a higher level, and I think he'll come through.
How do you think Joshua will approach this fight in a different manner to his last 14?
I think for one, it's the first live opponent he's been in with. I mean, he boxed a guy that I managed, Rafael Zambano, and Matt Legg I used to manage, so I knew him quite well. And they were just so one-sided, those fights. You know, you couldn't really. I mean, with Rafael, we went through so many different tactics to try and make it last as long. But the first time he hit Rafael just said to me, "This guy's so fast, and his arms are so long. It's like, you know, an impossible task. There's only so many spaces in the ring you can find where you're away from him, and you're back to the ropes. And you know, the guy's got one punch knockout power in either hand. What can you do?"
So do you think that he may not rush in as quick as his previous?
I think he'd be crazy to rush in, because look at the platform he's given himself to have such a brilliant life, and the only way I could really see him losing was if he got maybe over anxious and trying to sort of rush things and land big shots early, and there's no reason for him to do that. I think he can probably win it by outboxing him and grinding him down, and as things slow down, then try and nail him with the big shots. Why go in gung-ho when then you risk, because Dillian Whyte can punch. I mean, he's boxed on a couple of my shows. The one that really impressed me was against Marcelo Nascimento, Brazilian, who was a durable guy and I know wanted to go the distance in that fight, and he hit with a body shot, and he just showed really good hand speed and power. And I think if people were sort of expecting it to be a rollover, or taking it too easy, then that's a big mistake. That's something that could really be costly, and cause a lot of sort of people to really set up and see some, you know, a surprise. But I know Anthony Joshua quite well, and he's very level-headed. I don't see him being the kind of person that leave himself open to that. I think he'd have no. He won't care that he's got this record of knocking everyone out early. I think he'll just make sure he wins. You know, he's methodical. He's a clever guy, very intelligent, you know, person. And I just think he'll go and outbox him. And when the time comes to land the big shots, I think he'll do it. I don't think he'll underestimate Dillian Whyte. I think he'll be ready for something, you know, a test. And this will be the first test that he's got. Whether it's worthy of pay-per-view, I don't think two guys of that level are, but it's a business, it's a commercial enterprise, and what do you measure it on? not necessarily how much they've achieved so far. More, is it commercially viable? Well, all the tickets are gone, and a lot of people are going to buy that, and that's going to make a lot of money for both of those guys. Meaning that it is pay-per-view. You know, there's the proof. People will buy it.
I mean, touching on that, the pay-per-view, whether it's worthy, whether it's not, the undercard in itself is quite good also. I wonder if we could just talk briefly about that. I mean, we've got Luke Campbell, Chris Eubank Jr. What do you think of those two?
Luke Campbell's fighting Yvonne Mendy, who Yvonne Mendy boxed a guy that I managed to called Sam Rakundo, who was rated in the top 10 in the WBC. Really good fighter, got to the quarterfinals in the Olympics, Southpaw, and Yvonne Mendy beat him, and that was quite close to Sam Rakundo's best. Mendy, I would imagine, probably slowed down a little bit now since then, but I think really good matchmaking, perfect fight for Campbell. I don't think Campbell will have an easy night.
He's never been stopped, has he, Mendy?
No, he's a tough guy, and he won't come just to go through the rounds either. He'll have a go. I just think Luke Campbell, skills-wise and speed-wise, will have too much for him. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if it went the distance or if it went into the very late rounds. I'd be amazed if it was early.
How about Chris Eubank Jr. and Gary O'Sullivan?
That's a good fight. Interesting, intriguing fight. I think Sullivan, I mean, I've seen him box a few times. He strikes me as a guy that will not be influenced by, you know, the mind games or the warrior. I think he'll go and have a go. Whether he'll be able to compete in the second half of the fight with Eubanks, who's shown us in the fight he had with Billy Joe Saunders, got a very good engine. I don't know, because I think O'Sullivan might struggle to keep up with him skills-wise for the first half of the fight, but will probably coast it and be okay. But then the second half, when Eubanks starts really stepping up through the gears, I think he might struggle. But he's a very nice guy, Gary O'Sullivan, so I hope that he has a successful night.
Do you think that's where the difference is then? I mean, since their mutual loss in Billy Joe Saunders, do you just think that since both of their fights that Chris Eubank Jr. has stepped up much more than
he definitely
Gary
has
O'Sullivan?
Stepped up a lot, and I'd imagine even if he fought Billy Joe again now, I think much more of a 50-50 than it was first time round. I think Eubank had never been past 6 rounds before. We'd only had like 2 6-round, you know, compared to Billy Joe had done all them European title fights and stuff like that.
It was a big step up at the time.
Too much for me, too much in one go. I think they plunged him into a too hard a fight too early. And but you know, that's boxing. You learn from it. He didn't get destroyed. Came out of it with his head held high. And can move on.
Let's talk about Paulie Malignaggi, because he's on at 5 o'clock. He's on very early, and he was down at Limehouse Marina during the week.
He's been at our gym this week. Seemed like a very nice guy actually. He was in there. He doesn't really need any introduction. Boxing fans know him. You know, he's boxed the top guys in his weight division, and fighting for a European title, which is quite curious.
You a bit surprised about that?
Yeah, how he qualified for it. I know he's got Italian descent, but I don't know how close. Everyone in America's got European
yeah,
descent,
everyone in New York anyway.
Yeah.
How do you rate his chances? I mean, I know it's a late pull-out from his opponent. He's fighting...
I haven't really analysed it, to be honest with you. I've looked more at, I think, Dillian and obviously a lot of the media stuff this week's been on Tyson Fury, which has taken up a lot of, you know, I've had so many different people ask me about. I think, I feel a bit sorry for Tyson really, because he's a British heavyweight who's gone and actually done what so many British heavyweights failed to do before him. Yeah. And he's been strung up a little bit, and maybe even betrayed by certain parts of the media that just look to sort of demonise.
What do you make of it? I mean, obviously it was the BBC Sports personality calls to have him taken off of the list. I think at one point the petition had more signatures than keeping Donald Trump out of the UK.
Yeah, and that's thanks to the personality that he's got. Like, I'm not saying that I agree with the things that he's alleged to have said. Like, I've spoken to him a lot of times. He's never come across to me like an idiot or a bigot at all. And you've got to remember as well, he's a gypsy. Gypsies are the victims of the most amount of bigoted behaviour, probably of all the ethnic minorities. So, who knows? We'll see. But I think he should be in it, and I think boxing people should get behind him and vote for him, because he is a personality. He's not some sort of muesli munching sort of fop that will just sort of you know, go along with whatever the PR person tells him to.
I mean, based on sporting achievements alone and sporting prowess, for me, he wins it hands down anyway with who he's in there with.
Achievement, and he did it. All the things like singing in the ring,
yeah,
the whole package, turning up to press conferences dressed as, that's a personality, dressed as Batman, wrestling with Robin on. He is a personality, and you know, well, let's see who wins it, and if they do win it, let's see their personality compared to, because that's what it's supposed to be. Is who has the biggest personality? I think Tyson Fury should win it.
So from one Tyson to another Tyson, I saw a couple of days ago you were at Pinewood Studios filming for a new Mike Tyson game, and
yes.
Your very own Darryl Williams was asked to mimic his style.
Yeah, he was cast as Mike Tyson, and actually you won't get a fighter that's more like Tyson than Darryl Williams. So very easy to put him forward. You know, when you're sort of putting something forward and you've got a lot of doubts, not so easy. But I've had so much belief that Darryl actually is the best option for them. His style is, you know, like a clone of Tyson. His speed, his, you know, the leverage, the way he sets himself for his shots. So he got the job, and yeah, it was a really good experience. I think for I sent 4 of my guys down there, and they all got well paid, and they had a good experience from it. So happy days. Yeah, the game comes out. It's going to be in Coral betting shops, I think. Not sure exactly how the game works, but we'll see. We will be able to watch it soon.
Let's talk about some of your guys then, because I know February 27th you have the Dan Woodgate, Waddy Camacho Southern Area title fight. You've got 3 Southern Area title fights on that night.
Yeah, so we won the purse bids for Woodgate against Waddy Camacho, so that'll be on there. Southern Area Cruiserweight title. We've also got possibly Warren Fenn against Nick Gemman, because I believe the Brighton show may have moved, or it may not have. We'll wait and see, but we'll negotiate that in over the next sort of 7 days. If I don't put it in Brighton, I've got the rights to promote it wherever I want, so I don't have to put it in Brighton. I'll put it on that show on the 27th. That's at York Hall. Nearly all our shows next year are at York Hall. Someone actually said to me, "Oh yeah, if you're at York Hall, you have to pay off another promoter who's got all the dates." Well, I just paid York Hall. No promoter's got all the dates. I've got about 10 there next year, and I'm really looking forward to going back there. I haven't been there for a while, been promoting in other venues. And
Tommy Tier to Mukamucha rescheduled.
And that's another Southern Area, yeah, the welterweight, so we got that fight as well. Tommy Tier's boxing a lot of my shows been put up. Tamika Mucha looks like a good fighter. I saw some odds up that really heavily favoured Tamika Mucha, because the fight was supposed to be tonight before it was cancelled. I think it's a lot more even than that. We'll see.
Well, as we're talking about
Senior Byfield, who'll get into maybe fighting the winner of that.
Yeah. I spoke to a senior after his fight, and he did say that there could be a 50-50 Southern Area title fight for him next year some point. Talking about odds and betting, let's have a final thought. Your picks for the weekend.
Of all the bets I've seen this weekend, the best one definitely. I think people were offering, I think it was Paddy Power, were offering 5-2 for the, 5-6 for the fight to go past 2.5 rounds. So if the fight doesn't go 2.5 rounds, you lose your money. I'm sure Dillian Whyte against Anthony Joshua will go go longer than 2.5 rounds. I can't be sure, they're heavyweights, but I think he will, because I think Dillian Whyte's a lot cleverer than what people give him credit for, and awkward, and he's good at nullifying a lot of the things that Joshua is good at. Moves his head a lot, cuts down the space, and that will deny Joshua the leverage to get his big shots off. So I think that's a good bet. Over 2.5 rounds.
And where did you say that was, on Paddy Power?
It was with Paddy Power, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having a chat with us, and this is going to be more of a weekly thing. So
every week now the blog goes out.
Every Friday?
Yes.
Friday afternoon. Mickey, thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
See you then.